From the Victory Studios in downtown Little Rock, this is Capitol View with your host, Jessi Turnure.
Good Sunday morning to you and welcome into Capitol View. I'm Jessi Turnure. Arkansas lawmakers wrapped up week 2 of the 92nd General Assembly, and we've heard the session priorities from the governor, House and Senate leadership, even the Democratic Party. This week, the newly formed Arkansas Republican Women's Legislative Caucus announced their priorities, their Dream Big initiative, a legislative package focused on education, juvenile justice reform, childcare and broadband access, and financial support for UAMS. 3 of those 21 women join me this morning to discuss the details of these proposals and potential hurdles to get them passed. So we want to welcome to the show State Senator Breanne Davis, State Senator Missy Irvin, and State Representative Mary Bentley.
Good morning.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
So I know we have a lot of ground to cover here, but first I just kind of wanted to throw out the question and say, how did all of these women come together and land on these 5 specific issues?
I think it was so exciting for us to look around and see the diversity of the women that have been elected to public office, and they represent every single corner of our state. And then when we started to dig in and to find out their stories behind them and what led them to come and serve and be elected to statewide office, we just decided, you know, let's look at this. And together we have over 144 years of combined service in the public arena. And so we just wanted to jump out there and figure out what it is that we do best and what we believe in. And that was just really putting forward game-changing policies for the state of Arkansas. Big, bold initiatives for the good of Arkansas is what Dream Big stands for.
And these are all priorities that the governor has come out in support of even after you guys held the press conference. Democrats have even not disagreed that these are bipartisan issues. But Breanne, I wanted to start with you. There is still going to be some pushback on some of these issues. And I know that you announced the broadband piece, and so that piece of legislation would repeal the state's municipal broadband prohibition, and that would allow cities and counties to partner with any broadband provider of their choice. And so moving forward, I have a feeling that this will not make current providers, those major carriers, too happy. So how do you go about getting this passed?
Well, I think the facts are in our favor on this. I mean, for several years now, the federal government has been providing grant money to a lot of these providers to provide access to broadband to rural areas. And what we know right now is that approximately 40% of Arkansans do not have access to broadband as defined by the FCC. And I think that's important to note that in 2019, we have a large percentage of the state population that does not have access to broadband in the way that they should. And so that impacts our healthcare services, and it impacts education. It's an economic issue. I mean, it's a safety issue. So I think it's something that is a bold initiative, like Senator Irvin said. It's something that is not a partisan issue. And I think we will receive pushback from some of the people who like the law how it is. But what we know is that the law, as written today, has not been working for the state of Arkansas. So it's time to do something different.
And then as far as the education push goes, Mary, I wanted to talk to you about that. The bill would establish new guidelines for literacy plans in school districts. And so I wanted to see just why is that being mandated? Why is that needed?
Because unfortunately, when we pass things, so many things that we pass in the legislature, there's no teeth in it, so it doesn't get followed through. So even though as much as we think it's a great idea, we want our kids in Arkansas to read. I mean, we look at it, we're all pro-life, we're all really pro-Arkansas. And so that's what the whole idea is. We're pro-Arkansas. We think our kids deserve better than where they're at with their reading levels. So many of them do not even reach grade proficiency. So what can we do to put a little bit of teeth in? So the whole thing was, we love RISE, we love the science of reading and all that, but what can we do to put a little bit of teeth in there to actually make every child in Arkansas get the benefits from that? Because too many times it kind of gets pushed aside. Superintendents that think it's too much hassle and too much aggravation, and so we want to have a little teeth in there to make something really happen for every child here. And one big thing in the bill is that so many times we have these people producing literature for our schools, for our districts, and they come out there, they're selling this literature, and they put a sticker on there, so this is RISE approved, whatever, but there's nothing different in there, so it really is not. So we're having the Arkansas Department of Education go through there and actually look at these and vet them, and so the school's going to get a whole list of curriculum that's really going to do what it's supposed to do. And so it helps the districts right there to pick good curriculum for our students, and so it gives them a couple years to get all that going. And really, we just want to be help. We don't want to be a hindrance. We want to just really help every child in Arkansas. That's what. And reading is essential. If you don't read, you cannot learn, and you cannot progress anywhere. So it's very important to all of us that we make sure that reading is top priority, and then we help our schools to really stick to it and put some teeth in our bill. So that's what it's about.
And then, Missy, you're taking a look at the juvenile justice reform, and that seems to be the thickest bill that will be presented out of this 5-issue initiative. So So what all does that encompass? I know it's trying to find alternatives for some of these low-risk offenders that are youth, things of that nature. So yeah, go into that a little bit.
So I started this journey in 2013 with a bill that I couldn't get passed, but since then we created the Youth Justice Reform Board. The Supreme Court has their Coalition on Children and Families, and all the stakeholders came together and have been working now since 2015 to figure out what we need to do. We've obviously researched what's going on in other states that we know is proven and that works. And so what this does is the juvenile judges and the judicial system have been wonderful, and the community service providers. They have come together to put together a validated risk assessment tool that will be used throughout the state of Arkansas. We don't need geographic justice. We want justice for our kids that's uniform across the state, that really identifies whether they are a high risk, a moderate risk, or a low risk. If they're low risk, we don't want to incarcerate them into DYS custody. That's not good for that child. We want that child to be pulled up, to be able to be diverted into alternatives, and that's where the community providers come in. They need to be able to provide the correct amount of service and support for those kids and their families to get them back on the right track so that those kids can become productive, wonderful citizens for our state. And so it's incredibly important. Juvenile justice reform has been a passion of mine since 2013, and again, that cuts across every boundary out there. Every race, color, creed, gender, background is all affected by this issue. So it is so important that we do this and do it right, and we finally have everybody on the same page moving forward, and I'm so excited about what we're able to do and to reinvest those dollars back into the communities, into those programs, those mentoring programs, and all those programs that are in churches and in schools and organizations that we know are successful in guiding that child back to success.
And then something that we haven't heard, at least I don't think that has come up a lot, is just access to childcare. Right. And there's kind of the bill would do an interesting thing with DHS, right, to kind of make it more accessible.
Right. So we, I look out in Perry County. We had some recent rules of DDS and all that, bringing early childhood together. And just looking, I thought, there's not as much child care available now as there was 30 years ago when I was when I was working at Children's Hospital. And I had my kids in day. There's less there available, and so it's really important as an economic development thing for people to have a good quality daycare right there near them and child care for their kids. And also, it's great to me in entrepreneurship. Why are we not saying that? What's more? So the bill just says let's have a one-stop shop on DHS where people can go. Because to me, when I look at the rules and regulations, it's like, oh my gosh, there's just so many of them there. So let's make it easy to read. Let's have some diagrams. Let's have some things where we can look and find a one-stop, just like we did with the small business there on the Secretary of State's website. We set up a one-stop shop. So let's have a one-stop shop on DHS for folks, the entrepreneurs that are thinking about it. Maybe there's a church that wants to open up a daycare and really reach out to their kids in the community that really need some mentors and stuff. So what are the processes? Where's the funding available? And the other thing is that, I want to make sure that we don't have any regulations in Arkansas more than we need to. Are we doing anything above and beyond the federal regulations that we can look at and maybe take back? So that's just really a good, let's look at it, let's discuss it, let's do it in a timely manner and find out what we can do to make things better in the state. Because it's important for folks to have a good spot for their kids.
And I want to make sure that we talk about all five. So we have to talk about the National Cancer Institute designation that UAMS has been working on. This would kind of set up a funding mechanism, but we still really don't know how this would be funded.
Right.
Okay. So
That's
how are the discussions moving forward? What's this turning out to be?
So I think the biggest ask, and the one that we all just are so excited about, is really to help UAMS reach National Cancer Institute designation and become an NCI designated cancer center. What that means for the citizens of the state of Arkansas is that our citizens no longer will have to travel out of state to MD Anderson or Rochester, Minnesota. I just met a lady yesterday that had her treatment in Rochester, Minnesota. Wonderful facilities, but that's really difficult on our citizens. So those, if UAMS gets the NCI designation, they will bring research to UAMS and clinical trial studies for our citizens to be able to participate in. And we have to combat this. Cancer is, obviously it affects every single person, cancer does. And we want our Arkansans to have the best chances of survival of cancer. How do you do that? We've got to invest. We've got to invest in UAMS. It's a $10 million annual funding mechanism that we are asking for from state government, which will be matched with probably about $30 million in private donations as well, to bring the package of researchers and doctors to UAMS. And with that becomes federal research dollars, and it's actually a $70 million annual economic boost to our economy, and it will create over 1,500 jobs in 5 years. So not only is it great for our Arkansans and their chances of survival of cancer, it's also a huge economic development issue for Arkansas.
Yeah, a lot of work went into this, and then a lot of work still to be had, I know.
Yes.
So thank you ladies so much for joining us.
Thank you for having
us.
us.
A chance to talk about it. We appreciate it.
And coming up after a quick break, Attorney General Leslie Rutledge joins me to discuss the possibility of making all abortion illegal in Arkansas and how soon she thinks that may happen. You're watching Capitol View on Sunday morning.
Sonic Signature Slinger for under 350 calories. Featuring a Sonic patty made with 100% pure beef, mushrooms, and seasonings. Say yes to flavor. Say no to guilt. Then say yes to flavor again. Don't miss out. Sonic Signature Slingers for $1.99. And try order ahead to get happy hour anytime.
Cracks in your walls? Sloping floors or soft spots? Is your house falling down around you? There are many warning signs of foundation issues, and your home may already be breaking, so don't break the bank too. Get a professional opinion from a name you can trust. Phillips Affordable House Leveling.
My name is Daphne Boyd, and on April the 1st, 2013, my son Xavier Woods was shot and killed. Help Arkansas declare victory over violence.
Incomparable design makes it beautiful. State-of-the-art technology makes it brilliant. The Lexus NX with pedestrian detection, lane departure alarm, and Amazon Alexa compatibility. Standard. Experience the crossover in its most visionary form.
Lease the 2019 NX300 for $319 a month for 36 months.
Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer.
Sold it. Absolute Real Estate Auction, Thursday, February 28th at 1 p.m. in Centerton, Arkansas, 2 miles south of the Bentonville West High School. 40 prime development acres, Highway 102 and Keller Road frontage. Offered in 3 tracks and combinations. Go to wilsonauctioneers.com.
Sold it. $299 for a Car Hop Classic. What a steal.
Steal? That's a heist. Put this on.
It's a disguise.
I don't think I can eat in this.
It's all part of the plan, my friend.
Get a quarter-pound double cheeseburger or a Slinger Plus Tots for $2.99. Try it today.
You're watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
Welcome back to Capitol View. Week 2 of the 92nd General Assembly is in the books. Measures passed at the Capitol will have long-standing legal consequences frequently. That means the Attorney General will step in at one point or another. Joining me now is the Attorney General herself, Leslie Rutledge. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Jessi.
So last year, Arkansas lawmakers passed legislation to regulate pharmacy benefit managers, and we have seen that process start to play out here. But then also in Washington, we've seen movement there on the issue as well. So I wanted to bring you on the show to catch us up on your involvement against one of them, PCMA, and then where the legal action stands with SCOTUS.
Absolutely. A couple of years ago, as you mentioned, in statute, Arkansas basically passed a law that said that we want to be able to regulate drug prices, see what these pharmacy benefit managers are doing. As it's worked its way through the court, the 8th Circuit sort of handed us down somewhat of a loss, but we're asking the U.S. Supreme Court to take up that case because we believe it's important for Arkansans, for our pharmacies to be able to get fair reimbursements from these pharmacy benefit managers, and for Arkansans to get affordable health care. How many times have we talked to folks and they say, one of their most expensive bills every single month is how much their prescriptions cost. And so much of it has to do with whether or not their local pharmacies are getting reimbursed accurately by pharmacy benefit managers. In addition to this lawsuit that you're referencing, that we're again asking the United States Supreme Court to take up, we've also looked at legislation here in state that was passed last year as a result of CVS Caremark. My office has launched investigation into CVS Caremark over these reimbursement rates, and it's all about making sure it is a fair process for Arkansans, for our pharmacists to get medications to people at the rate that they're supposed to have it at.
And then I know that a lot of legal junkies watch the show, so thank you. I know that they talked about this actually on SCOTUS blog, but for people who are not maybe as much of legal junkies as some of these people out there, why is it such a big deal to have, Leslie Rutledge versus PCMA at the SCOTUS level?
Well, it's very rare for the Supreme Court to take cases, and so that's why we're asking the Supreme Court. We asked last October, for the Supreme Court to take up this case. It's important because for Arkansas we want Arkansas to be able to regulate drug pricing at the state level, that it shouldn't be PBMs, pharmacy benefit managers, are asking that they be excluded from this, and we're asking the Supreme Court to take up this case and to rule on it, so that way the Arkansas law will allow us to see behind the curtain, to see how much they are charging, how much they are reimbursing, what the rates are in fact.
Okay, and then how would this potentially aid in the discussion that other states are having across the country?
I believe that something in the nature of 38 other states are part of this, or 30-plus states have joined in an amicus brief to encouraging the Supreme Court to take up the Arkansas case. So this will have a national impact. Pharmacy benefit managers are one of the largest pieces of the healthcare puzzle across the country. As we look at, again, escalating drug prices, access to healthcare, whether or not that you have to have your drugs mailed to you, whether or not you have to use a specific pharmacy, it's impacted pharmacies right here in the state. We have lost numerous local homegrown pharmacies, and most people, they want to be able to go in and ask their pharmacist a question. Think about when you have a prescription, or your family has a prescription or a health care issue, you talk to the doctor, but then you really talk to your pharmacist. And we want to make sure that those face-to-face conversations and local pharmacies are able to thrive and to take care of Arkansas families and people across the state.
Now, speaking of SCOTUS, you have been involved in a lot of abortion cases here in Arkansas and across the country as a staunch pro-life advocate. And what are your thoughts on legislation filed on the anniversary of Roe v. Wade this week that would abolish abortion here in Arkansas if SCOTUS does overturn it, one of these kind of trigger laws that we've seen? Sure,
and we've got a number of bills that are being filed by our legislators to protect life. And we work with those legislators, whether it's this bill to eliminate abortion should Roe v. Wade be overturned. However, that's a long way down the road. And I believe Senator Rapert was one who had filed that bill. A number of other bills looking at whether or not it should be 15 weeks to 20 weeks bans, whether same-sex, or not same-sex rather, but the sex discrimination, whether or not a woman can choose to have an abortion based on the sex of the baby. All these things are matters that are important to Arkansans, and they're important to the life matter. We look at it when we talk to these legislators is to say, let's get this bill to where it is challenged, that we can defend this statute if it's passed.
So you did say a long way down the road. Rapert was he was citing when I talked to him earlier this week that some people are even saying it could be overturned in 2 years, and that's why he's pushing for it now. But based on your knowledge, is that reasonable?
Well, I think, 2 years is a long way down the road. Okay. Most people, they think in terms of, oh, well, this is going to happen today or this is going to happen tomorrow. And so that we want to make sure that states, should Roe v. Wade be overturned, that states, whether it's Arkansas or across the country, have mechanisms in place that they are thinking how they want to address this at a state level.
And more with Attorney General Leslie Rutledge when we come back, including how she'll work with lawmakers on other legislation, including the controversial push to amend the minimum wage increase. You're watching Capitol View on Sunday morning.
No mess is too much for the boys in blue.
Uh-oh, I'm in a mess.
Even if you have a messy Maya, we can make everything look good as new. When Messy Maya strikes at your house, you know who to call.
The boys in blue.
Hi, I'm Missy Gibson. At John Gibson Auto Sales, we offer our customers the opportunity to buy almost any vehicle. We have over 900 cars, trucks, SUVs, motorcycles, ATVs, campers, performance trailers, and boats. We will finance your purchase in-house regardless of your credit history. You can actually make your purchase from home or on the go. Simply go online to johngibsonautosales.com and take a virtual tour of our inventory. We call it shopping made easy. See you soon at John Gibson Auto Sales, in person or online.
After a stressful day at work, wouldn't it be nice to come home and totally relax? Marketplace Furniture in Bryant has the answer. The new So Cozy recliner provides the benefits of a professional massage chair. Choose from 300 fabrics to fit your style, plus power headrest and power lumbar. Get your So Cozy recliner just $14.88 or less than $30 a month. Marketplace Furniture, next to Ashley Home Store, exit 123 off I-30 in Bryant.
At Arkansas Spine and Pain, we love being a part of the family that is our great state. Our mission is to help every family we can live pain-free lives so you can get back to taking hikes, walking the dog, giving your kids and grandkids piggyback rides. Give us a call today at Arkansas Spine and Pain and get out of the cycle of agony you're in. You deserve to get your life back ASAP.
This time of year, your heater is probably working hard, but is it as warm in your house as it should be? Is your bill too high because of it? You should call Herbert Heating and Air. For 25 years, Herbert Heating and Air has provided excellent service at an affordable price. Whether you need a new unit, a repair to your existing system, a routine service, or even a second opinion, call Herbert Heating and Air for a free estimate. 501-888-2773. Let our family help your family. Herbert Heating and Air.
No mess is too much for the boys in blue.
Uh-oh, I made a mess.
Even if you have a messy Maya, we can make everything look good as new. When Messy Maya strikes at your house, you know who to call.
The boys in blue.
You're watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
Welcome back to Capitol View. We are back with Attorney General Leslie Rutledge. Like you were saying, just with these abortion bills that we're going to be seeing debated in these next several months in the session, you do kind of more work behind the scenes during the session than throwing out your own, legislative priorities or packages and things of that nature.
That's right, but we do work very closely with legislators and with the governor to make sure that bills that they do put forward that they can withstand constitutional challenge, because what we don't like to see happen is so many bills come out of the legislative session, suits are filed against those statutes, and then we lose, and so we've lost a lot of time, effort, and resources. We would rather make sure the wording is accurate, so that way whatever the legislators pass and the governor signs, that will be the law of Arkansas.
What about, just since you mentioned that, I have to ask you about the bill that Senator Bob Ballinger, he has been pushing for to kind of amend a little bit the minimum wage law that voters passed back in November. How do you imagine that playing out? Did you work with him at all on that?
Well, again, that's a prime example where we do work with the legislators. I'm not sure, that's going to be a big fight at the Capitol, I imagine, and that was a very strong message sent by the voters of Arkansas with regard to the minimum wage. As to the specifics and who it impacts, I think that's where Representative Ballinger is coming from. I'd have to let him speak for himself, because we do want to be able to grow jobs, and we do want small businesses to be able to continue to thrive and not go out of business because of the cost of doing business. However, we have not gotten through all the steps yet with Representative Ballinger and others on that.
Okay. And then you mentioned, too, working with the governor. He did say in this panel that he did before the session started that he was working with you. He had already met with you about some of this execution legislation, and that's namely to follow up with the Arkansas Supreme Court's decision that the director of the Arkansas Department of Correction can't be, the sole determination of a death row inmate's competency. And so where does that legislation stand at the moment?
Well, right now, that is still in the draft form, if you will, and we are looking at a number of things with regard to lethal injection, predominantly to protect the manufacturers. We've seen, that it's been very difficult for states such as Arkansas, who still have the death penalty on the books, to obtain the drugs necessary to carry out these executions. And part of the problem is that even though certain things can be disclosed and certain things cannot be disclosed under law, what it allows for right now is that you can still see who is manufacturing that drug or who it's being sent by. So we're trying to keep the privacy of those manufacturers and individuals or those companies private, so that way they do not suffer the onslaught of attacks from across the country and across the world, really, and that we can have access to those drugs so long as lethal injection is on the books here in the state. With regard to the director determine that competency, yes, we're talking to the governor about that and seeing where that bill goes.
So right now there's nothing you can say as far as, who else could be brought in to determine that. I know I was in there for the hearing at the Supreme Court, and they were talking about different people, just even like mental health experts and things of that nature.
Currently it is the director of the Department of Corrections.
Okay. And then just based on that as well, I know you brought up the drug manufacturer. The governor was saying that essentially, these two pieces of legislation would have to pass in order to kind of restart the lethal injection process, the death penalty in Arkansas. So how do you see the politics here playing out? Do you feel like some people who are not for the death penalty could try to stop some of these bills from passing?
Well, I'm certain that they will advocate for that. However, in Arkansas, by and large, majority of the people across the state do want to see justice carried out for these families of these victims, and that's what's important, is to be mindful that these are lawful sentences given to these individuals who have committed the most heinous acts you can possibly imagine, and these families of these victims relive those heinous acts every single time it is delayed and postponed. But again, these are lawful sentences given to juries to individuals who have committed acts oftentimes against innocent people, and taking their lives from them in the most vicious, damaging way that you can't even fathom.
And then we have heard from 2 of the 21 members that make up the new Republican Women's Legislative Caucus, and you were there this week as they announced their 5-session priorities. So what did you in your office, what kind of work did you do with them on these priorities moving forward?
Well, I'm excited about things that the GOP Women's Caucus brought forward, those 5 bills, because they deal with education, the economy, health care, things that impact all Arkansans, and they brought real solutions to the table, whether it was looking to make UAMS a National Cancer Institute, getting that recognition, whether it's making sure that businesses get a tax break for having daycares, because that's a huge cost. And believe me, as a new mom, I've got a 6-month-old daughter, and we recognize now the cost of childcare, because you want the best care for your child, and that's important to have that available across the state, while at the same time getting students able to read. I mean, all these bills are things that people care about. And broadband, I travel all over Arkansas, Jessi, every single year, and I can tell you the spots where we're lacking in good broadband and access and cell phone coverage. But that's important. It's important to our economy. It's important to our education. So these bills, I applaud the GOP Women's Caucus for bringing those forward and putting real solutions on the table.
Attorney General Leslie Rutledge, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
You bet.
And we're back to wrap it all up after this. You're watching Capitol View on Sunday morning.
The pain level was over 10. There's days where I just sat and cried and asked the good Lord to take me. And my doctor recommended that I go to Good Feet and try the arch supports. And I took about 3-4 steps, turned around and went and sat back down and started to cry. It was the first time that I had no pain. I'm not an actor. I want people to know my testimony. I want them to know what arch supports can do from Good Feet.
See for yourself with a free personalized arch support fitting at the Good Feet store.
Happy New Year, everybody. 2019 is here, and we're starting off with a huge 2018 model sale. We've got nearly 300 in stock at our absolute lowest prices. Go to McClartyNissan.com, click the button, get our absolute lowest price of the year. Sometimes it's cheaper to buy a new one than a used one. Remember, at McClarty Nissan, the reason we sell so many is because you pay so little.
You're watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
And that's it for today's show. Don't forget, you can now take Capitol View on the go. Download the Capitol View podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And we're back with an all-new Capitol View next week. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.